Hello and welcome back to the GB Fantasy Football channel. In today's video, we're going to be diving deep into the data, covering all things from top 1k ownership, best bonus points players over recent weeks, and the biggest point scoring players compared to potentially last season as well. Now, without further ado, let's crack on with the content. So yes, in today's video, that is what we are going to be doing. All things data driven. We haven't covered it on the channel since game week 12, so plenty to catch up on. And also discussing how Sun Dream Team as a whole is compared to last season's campaign. Now, if you do enjoy more data driven stuff that could potentially mold our teams in the future, smash a thumbs up on today's video. It's 100 is the target as usual. Also smash the subscribe button. We are closing in rapidly on 1,500. It's completely free and it helps out the channel massively. Now, onto the top 1k ownership. Not a lot of surprises at the top of the table. Erling Haaland owned by 99.9% of the player base. So there's a couple of you out there who don't own him, and you probably would have done really well over the last few game weeks. Lots of blanks, not a lot of points at all. He's on his current longest streak without a goal since, I think it's 2017 in club competitions. So if you've gone without him, you've done really well. Next up, Jurrien Timber at 76.1%, a lot higher than I would have thought. Yes, he was the highest owned defender, but that has gone up massively. And in the top four currently, I don't own Timber or Ekitike. So for tonight's game, for reference, this is being recorded before Marseille and Liverpool play in the Champions League. It is hiding behind the chair time for me. Ekitike up next, 74.4%, coming off the back of his 0.3 rise. A good double game week in game week 20. Also a a good double game week in game week 21 as well. So if those big chances get created and converted into goals and points, it's going to be a huge rank differential for those of you who do own him compared to me, of course. 74.4%. You're going to creep up a little bit in the top 1k. Bukayo Saka and Phil Foden making up the fourth and fifth position. Two players currently potentially on the chopping blocks for a lot of teams. Bukayo Saka picked up a few points against Inter Milan in the Champions League. 71.7% ownership. I do think he will play against Man United. I think he'll start that game. Will he play against Kara Almaty? I don't think so. I think that will be a full rotated side. So if you haven't brought him in, I don't think you'll be getting a full double out of him in game week 21. And as for Phil Foden, yet again another blank for him in game week 20. No points scored anywhere. Did indeed break his hand, but he played against Bodo Glimt. At least I think he did. He was on the team sheet. I didn't see him anywhere on that team. They've got Wolves at home and Galatasaray at home in game week 21. Is it time to move away from Phil Foden? Is he even going to start that Wolves game or Galatasaray game? He's been really poor in form. They've got lots of players available for the Premier League game. They'll have Bernardo Silva coming back in. They'll have Semenyo coming back in. Marmoush came back from AFCON last night. So I don't think Phil Foden is necessarily a guaranteed starter. And I think this will be the highest ownership he is in the top 1k for quite a while, because I fully expect that 67.3% to drop potentially under 50% going into game week 21. Turkey got his goal last night. I incorrectly said in yesterday's video, so I did a video earlier this week, that Turkey hadn't done anything since coming into my own team. I forgot he scored against Newcastle in the dying minutes of the Carabao Cup. He scored again last night against Bodo Glimt, and I fully expect him to start for Man City. He has been the shining light over the last few game weeks, and to see him benched was a big surprise in the previous game weeks. To see him start yesterday against Bodo Glimt, absolutely not. He is the creative spark currently in that Man City side. Next up, we've got the Brazilian duo Gabriel Magalhães, 59.2%. Got his rest against Inter Milan. Whether or not he'll play against Kara Almaty, I'm not sure. It depends who comes back in. You'll have Mosquera, you'll have Ben White, and you'll have Miles Lewis Skelly. Potentially Norgard could play centre half, but with Moreno and Declan Rice both suspended for that fixture, he might be needed in midfield, especially with Ethan Nwaneri going to Marseille on loan. So unless someone like a Hincapié or Calafiori comes back in, I do think either Saliba or Gabriel will play that fixture. Which one it will be, that's going to be a flip of a coin. And Bruno Guimaraes, 56.9% for Newcastle. Lots of double game weeks coming up for them. He's chipped away points wise. He did take the penalty a couple of game weeks back, but I wouldn't expect that every week. I think he'll stay in a couple of people's teams for game weeks 21 and 22. Beyond that, I'm not too sure. And the best of the rest, you've got Anthony Gordon at 43%, Lewis Hall at 42.7%. I actually thought that would be slightly higher considering the amount of teams that you see him in social media. Semenyo, 37.6%. A surprising statistic considering he can't play the Champions League games currently. David Raya at 37.1%. Another one that did surprise me, a very expensive goalkeeper and asset, but he is playing the majority of fixtures currently. Mateus Nunes, for me, a complete blank this game week. No substitutes left to bring him out of my team and transfer somebody in. Was out with the flu. Big dilemma going into game week 21 if that flu will keep him out of the Wolves game and Galatasaray game. So for 34.5% of us, that will create a dilemma. Morgan Rogers 30.9%, Donnarumma 23.4%. So that Manchester City defence really not coming in for points this game week in game week 20 currently. 21, sorry. Enzo for 20. I'm getting them mixed up. Enzo Fernandez 20.6%, Szoboszlai at 17.2%, Vicario at 16%. I did bring him in this week. Malik Chow at 15.7%, and Mickey van der Ven, who was suspended for the clean sheet last night, for those of you who do own him, 15.1%. So the players on this list that did surprise me. Ekitike being so highly owned in the top 1k, it is going to be high behind the chair time tonight. And also Gabriel at 59.2%. I thought he would be slightly higher. Anthony Gordon being at 43%. I can see that going down massively if Newcastle don't pull off any points in the Champions League this midweek. I thought it would be an interesting comparison to go into how players have scored from this season compared to last season. Now, I think many of us who played Sun Dream Team last year would have said this game so far has been a little bit underwhelming compared to the last campaign. Now, I will start with the scores on the doors, and this is from the 24-25 season in Sun Dream Team, from game week 0 to game week 20. And these are the biggest point scorers and the prices that they were at that specific game week, I believe. So top of the charts, no surprise, Mo Salah. He had 328 points. Erling Haaland second, 263 points. Cole Palmer, 225. Bukayo Saka, 224. Bruno Fernandes, 215. Alexander Isak, who was incredible for Newcastle last season, 212 points. Brian Mbeumo for Brentford, 207 points. Trent Alexander-Arnold, a player that I do think we are missing massively in Sun Dream Team this season, 206 points for him. James Maddison, the surprising one on this list, at 197 points. Amad Diallo, another surprising one, 196 points. Heung-min Son, 193, and Dejan Kulusevski, 192. Now, Kulusevski doesn't surprise me at all. If you did play Sun Dream Team last season, you know he was one of the consistent ones that ended up getting minutes in the Europa League under Ange Postecoglou for Tottenham. Now, looking at this graph, of course, we will go on to the 25-26 season after this, but there's so many striking options and midfield options. The only defender on this list currently, well, from last season that is, was Trent Alexander-Arnold with his 206 points. And Trent, as we know, was one of the most attacking fullbacks we've ever seen in Premier League history. But the thing that stands out is how many attacking assets are on here. We've got Erling Haaland, we've got Mo Salah, we've got Alexander Isak, Diallo, Heung-min Son. We've got 5 strikers straight away. That's not including midfielders who could be categorised as attacking midfielders rather than defensive ones. Cole Palmer played in that number 10 role last season, and on the right hand side under, I think it was Maresca. Incredible asset on Dream Team and was always a captaincy option. Bukayo Saka, another one. Bruno Fernandes. Man United was in European competitions last season. He was a mainstay in our squad. Now, from what I remember, and memory serves right, the top 5 on this list were pretty much in our teams for the majority of the season, bar injuries. Salah was taken out towards the back end. Haaland picked up an injury. Also, Saka picked up his injury around January time. So, all these players on the list were so exciting to watch. Even Maddison, Heung-min Son, and Mbeumo, he was the single game week player out of these collection of players. You just look at it across the board. The lowest scoring player on that list was 192 points, and the highest was 326. Across the board, you've only got 4 players under the 200 point mark across the big hitters and point scorers. Now, we will now move on to the 25-26 campaign. Leave a comment down below on if you enjoyed last season more than this season currently. That is of my belief as well, but there's still lots of game weeks to go in this season so far. Now, moving on to the 25-26 campaign, on the biggest point scorer so far from game week 0 to game week 20. You can see there's a big difference compared to last season. Erling Haaland, 292 points for the season. That's not including his 8 games of blanks in a row. But look at the difference in points compared to the last graph that I've just showed you. 175 points is the base of this list, where it's 190 plus. There's only one player in the entire game who scored more than 200 points. Last year we was having players such as Mo Salah scoring 300 points, and how many countless other great attacking assets in that 200 point mark, which is why you've seen through the majority of this season lots of people deploying a 5 at the back or a 4-5-1 and sticking to just one striker formations. Now we'll go through all the points. Erling Haaland 292, Phil Foden 199, Bruno Guimaraes 198, Yuri and Timber 197, Bukayo Saka 195 points, Igor Thiago 184, Cherki 181, Dominic Szoboszlai 179, Declan Rice 177, Semenyo 177, Enzo Fernandez 177, and Gabriel with 175. Now comparing that to last season at this stage, it's a massive difference between what players are doing well and what players were doing well. As we mentioned about last season, it was attacking assets. It was your attacking midfielders, it was your strikers, it was your wingers. Compare that to this season so far. You take Haaland out of the equation, there's one striker on this list, and that is Igor Thiago. Yes, he did score 5 in a recent Premier League double game week, but he wouldn't have been on many of our radars throughout the campaign with him not being a European asset. Yes, he scored well, but that leaves us just with Erling Haaland. There's no Alexander Isak, there's no Victor Gyökeres, there's no other players from last year. Mo Salah, notable absentee. I think many of us would have expected him to be on this list so far. But as you go through the list, there's lots of very similar players in there. You've got Enzo Fernandez, you've got Declan Rice, you've got Bruno Guimaraes, 3 box-to-box midfielders pretty much for their teams respectively. You've got a couple of Arsenal defenders in there with Gabriel and Timber, and then a splattering of Phil Fodens. You've got Semenyo, and they've been off the boil recently. Saka as well, but you look on this list, and 2 out of the top 5 biggest point scorers of the season so far are currently under massive strain in our teams to potentially be taken out in Saka and Foden. So it looks like reliability is the order of the day. Szoboszlai, Enzo Fernandez, Bruno Guimaraes, Declan Rice, players that are going to play both fixtures for their clubs. In a time where rotation seems rife across the game, I think they might be the way forward. Erling Haaland being the standout, lots of defensive options, and it does go to show that there's not many goals being scored compared to last season. And I spoke about this on social media. I think that has a lot to do with the promoted sides this season compared to the promoted side from last season. We had Ipswich, we had Southampton getting drubbed 5-6-0 by the big teams. This year, with Leeds buying into the more physicality based things with their transfers, I don't think they signed a player under 6 foot. You've got Sunderland, not lost at home this season, and a really good force across the league, fighting for those European places, whereas last year, Ipswich, Southampton and co were rooted to the bottom of the table and basically relegated by February time. So the promoted teams coming up have made it more difficult, and that is why, in my opinion, it's one of the most challenging leagues in recent seasons. Yes, we look at it and go, Arsenal are top by 7 points. That must mean it's the easiest league by far. But if you look at it, Arsenal have actually got the same amount of points as Liverpool had last season at this stage. I think Liverpool still had a game in hand against Everton. But there's a lot more competition lower down, and you see it towards the bottom end. Less goals being scored, less points being had, and bar Erling Haaland and a couple of box-to-box midfielders, I do think it's been a bit of a slow burn of this campaign. Hopefully it picks up with the remaining game weeks. Leave a comment down below, and if you do think that is the case, or you have a different viewpoint to me, and the attacking assets from last season might not be as good as the attacking ones from this season. My personal opinion, 24-25 is currently beating 25-26 with regards to points and a bit of excitement. We've got the biggest bonus point scoring players up next from between game weeks 13 and game weeks 20. That was when we last covered the data on the channel. Currently, Lewis Hall, top of the charts, 34 bonus points across those game weeks. He's done really well. It does have a little bit to do with the fact that Newcastle haven't really been able to rotate at the back, with Dan Burn being out, Fabian Schär being out, also Botman being out, Livramento picking up his own injury issue. So Lewis Hall has had to play the majority of the fixtures, and that is once again what we spoke about in the last slide. I think this season the big thing is to get our players out on the pitch consistently, and that doesn't necessarily, well, it's not happening across the player base with regards to attacking options. So maybe we need to look further back. Next up, Cherky of Manchester City, 24 points for him. A couple of benchings, but even when he's coming off the bench, he's still getting in the bonus point sections. Elliot Anderson was incredible at the start of the season under different managers. That's not tailed off at all. Not on corners as much, but that might come back into his repertoire over the next few game weeks. So that is definitely something to look out for. Nottingham Forest have been rotating a little bit in the Europa League, so if you are going to go for Anderson, do be wary of that. Phil Foden did indeed get bumped up to 3 bonus points overnight, surprisingly. So despite him not scoring or assisting, he did okay on what could potentially be his last game week for many of us. Jeremy Doku, always good for the dribble points in the PPM and the player performance marks. So for bonus points, he does exceptionally well. Manuel Fernandes at West Ham, taken over from where Lucas Paquetá once was. Bruno Guimaraes just chipping in every now and again in that midfield slot. Gets fouled quite a lot. Good dribbles and very reliable. Nico Williams, a player that I've owned throughout a lot of the campaign, got rid a couple of weeks back during the FA Cup games. Joe Garner and Pedro Porro, 16 and 15 points respectively. Pedro Porro continues to pick them up, but with the doubt over the current Tottenham manager and who that might be going forward, will that affect him? It does seem like he's taking corners back from Xavi Simons as well, which is another string to his bow. Ezra Konsa, always picking up those cheap fouls at the back, just stopping himself getting bumped into, and that's always handy for bonus points. Gets the passing points as well pretty much every week. Vitaly Janelt, 13. Moises Caicedo, 13 points. Ryan Gravenberch, a player that was really good last season for it, 12 for him. Lewis Marley, 11, but he is playing out of position currently at right back the most of the time. Dominic Szoboszlai and Manuel Fernandes. I think, is it Manuel Fernandes? Mateus Fernandes, sorry, of Manchester City, 11 points for them. Sandro Tonali, 11. Declan Rice, 11. And Coyote, 11, a player that was in quite a few of our teams at the start of the season. But once again, there's lots of midfielders on this list for bonus points, which is probably what you'd expect more for the bonus point system. Getting involved, getting combative in that midfield, winning the ball back. And we will indeed conclude with the tackle points in the next slide. But from what you can see, Lewis Hall, the amount of minutes that he's played and the effect that he's had on that Newcastle side, he's done really well. Unfortunately, the fixtures do turn slightly downwards for him over the next few game weeks. And finishing up with the tackle points, unfortunately, the graphic on the screen, that is not of my doing. That is a website. It is not only fpl.co.uk. Fantastic website, as you can see from today's video. All things data driven, not a sponsored segment. Go check it out. It has the latest and most up-to-date graphs, statistics, and all things that we need to cover our team. So from what we can see on the screen, we do have a couple of big hitters. This is from game weeks 13 to game week 20 tackle-wise. Adam Wharton of Crystal Palace with 43 tackles slid slightly under the radar. I had Kamada in the early parts of the season and he did exceptionally well. So it looks like Adam Wharton has taken up that role. Joe Garner filling in where the players at Everton went off to AFCON. Played at fullback a couple of times over the season, but he's really shone and potentially pushing for an England spot as well. 42 tackles for him. Traffert at Bournemouth, 40 points. Mateus Nunes, you would have thought I'd have known his name by now. I've had him in my team a few weeks. Mateus Nunes, 34 points. Does pick up the odd booking though with that kind of combative front foot defending. Yuri Tielemans, 34 points. Tim Irabunen, a player from last season who nearly picked up 33 tackle points in a single game. I think it was a Carabao Cup one. He's been chipping in across the board. Fiorentino, 32 points for him. Manuel Fernandes, 32. Pedro Porro, 31, which was quite a surprise. When you consider the Tottenham fullbacks, I thought Jed Spence would have been more of the tackle-based player. But clearly Pedro Porro is picking up the bonus points, he's picking up the tackle points. And when Tottenham do get a clean sheet, it's a haul. He does have the attacking threat as well. He should have scored last night. I watched the Dortmund game, he got through on goal, and for some reason he didn't shoot. For those of you who do own him, I'm sure you was pulling your hair out. And the last little graph that we can see, data-wise, before Adam Wharton's shoulder gets in the way, is Bruno Guimaraes at 28 points. So every player on this list, I think the scores over 20 tackle points between game weeks 13 and game weeks 20. Kenny Tete, Hume, Anthony Robinson, Enzo Fernandez, also a notable player on this list. Casemiro, Coyote, Elliot Anderson, once again, tackle points, bonus points. Nico O'Reilly, are his minutes safe in that Man City team with Aït-Nouri and Ake potentially at left back? That is still to be decided, of course. And also Moises Caicedo. So players on this list that stand out. all the European-based players. You've got Bruno Guimaraes, Moises Caicedo, Nico O'Reilly, if he can keep his position, Elliot Anderson, if he's picking up tackle points and bonus points and appearance points, it might be the same as the start of the season where you look at him, he hasn't got anything attacking wise, goals or assists, but he comes away with over 5 points, and that was normally his sort of range between 5 and 10 points. And now, if that is the case, and he is starting those Europa League games, I think that is definitely something to note. He's dropped a little bit in price since I sold him earlier. So also the European teams, Adam Wharton, and probably the European-based players across the board as well. Enzo Fernandez, hopefully he can keep that up. I wonder if the assist at the weekend classifies as a tackle where he blocked it. Who knows? Leave a comment down below, and if you have any players on this list. That does indeed conclude today's video, more of a data-driven one ahead of Game Week 21. A few players over those few graphics did catch my attention. Also, it was interesting to note how this season is a lot more defensive-wise. I think that's more copium for me and my goal boost only getting 0 points out of absolutely nothing. So I do look at that and think there's a distinct lack of points being scored across the game. Not a lot of attacking options. Basically box-to-box midfielders, lots of defensive assets, less rotation risk, but potentially less upside as well. So leave a comment down below, and if you did play last season, have you enjoyed last season more than this season so far? And also, have any players in today's video, statistic-wise, caught your eye enough to potentially go into those transfer plans ahead of the Game Week 21 deadline? If you have enjoyed today's video, smash the thumbs up button. Go down below, smash the subscribe button as well. 1,500. We're on the road there. We are racing towards it. It's the next big milestone on the channel. I'd be greatly appreciated if you could smash the bell notification down below so you don't miss an upload in your sub boxes. All the socials are down there as well in the description as always. TikTok, Instagram and X, all that good stuff. Go check it out. Thank you very much for watching today's video. There will be a final thoughts one up on the channel before the deadline, more than likely on Friday morning. So do keep your eyes peeled. And you'll be seeing me in a new one very soon.